Imagine this, a man so terrifying, so ruthless, that his name inspired one of the most infamous monsters in literature, Count Dracula. But what if I told you the real story is even darker than the legend? Vlad the Impaler, also known as Vlad III or Vlad Dracula, wasn't just a medieval ruler. He was a man shaped by war, betrayal, and bloodlust. His name still echoes through the mountains of Transylvania, and not just because of Bram Stoker. No, Vlad's story is soaked in horror, cruelty, and a twisted form of justice that makes Game of Thrones look like a bedtime story. But let's go back to the beginning. To understand the monster, we must first meet the boy. Vlad was born in 1431 in the fortress of Sigishora in Transylvania. His father, Vlad II Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a secret society sworn to defend Christianity against the Ottoman Empire. That's actually where the name Dracula comes from. It means son of the dragon. Cool, right? But don't get too comfortable. At just 11 years old, Vlad and his brother Radu were taken hostage by the Ottomans. Imagine being a child, ripped away from your home, thrown into a foreign world filled with enemies. That kind of trauma doesn't just vanish, it shapes you. While Radu eventually adapted and even befriended the Ottomans, Vlad didn't. He stewed in bitterness, anger, and plotted revenge. This wasn't a Disney prince. This was a boy who was already becoming a storm years later, after his father's assassination and his brother being buried alive. Yes, buried alive. Vlad returned to reclaim his throne in Wallachia. But he didn't just want to rule. He wanted to rule with fear, and he knew exactly how to do that. His favorite method? Impalement. Yeah, impalement. It wasn't just execution. It was psychological warfare. Vlad would drive a massive wooden stake through his victims' bodies, often starting from the rectum or abdomen, and letting them die slowly over hours, sometimes days. These weren't isolated incidents. It's said that over 20,000 people were impaled under Vlad's command, their corpses left to rot along roads and city entrances as a warning. There's a chilling story about a visiting Ottoman envoy. When they refused to remove their turbans before Vlad, he had the turbans nailed to their skulls, literally nailed, all to make a point about respect. And get this, in one of the most disturbing accounts, Vlad once invited hundreds of noblemen to a feast, welcomed them with open arms, then had them all stabbed and impaled. Right there. No second chances. Why? Because he believed they were disloyal to his family. Was he a monster? Or was he just a ruler doing what he believed necessary in brutal times? Let's not forget, Wallachia was a battlefield, caught between the Ottoman Empire and Hungary. It was constant war, shifting loyalties, betrayal. Vlad believed fear was the only currency that worked, and he spent it like a king. One story tells of a Saxon merchant who cheated the Wallachian people. Vlad didn't just punish him, he impaled the man, and then ordered all the other Saxon traders to witness it. He made it very clear, cheating his people meant death. Justice. Vlad style. But here's something that'll make your skin crawl. During one battle, Vlad reportedly poisoned wells and burned crops across his own land, just to starve the advancing Ottoman army. He didn't just fight his enemies, he outthought them. Ruthless, yes, but strategic. There's even a legend that he dined among the impaled corpses of his enemies, calmly eating his meal while hundreds of bodies writhed and moaned around him. Can you imagine that scene? The stench, the screams, and Vlad, utterly unfazed. That's the level of darkness we're talking about. And yet, to many Romanians, Vlad is still seen as a national hero. Yeah, a hero, He defended his land from foreign invaders, he crushed corruption, and he was unshakably loyal to his people. His cruelty wasn't just random, it had purpose. Even the Pope once praised him for his bravery against the Ottomans. Let's talk about his relationship with his brother Radu, because that adds another layer to the tragedy. Radu, known as Radu the Handsome, was charming and loved by the Ottomans. He even converted to Islam and became a favorite of the Sultan. Vlad, meanwhile, remained defiant. The brothers were often on opposite sides of the battlefield, a family torn apart by war, loyalty, and survival. Eventually, Vlad was captured and imprisoned by the King of Hungary. He spent over a decade in prison, but even then he didn't break. In fact, during his captivity, he reportedly impaled small animals and birds, a dark reminder that his violent tendencies never really left him. When he finally regained his freedom, he launched one last campaign to take back his throne. But betrayal followed him to the end. In 1476, he was ambushed, possibly by his own men. He was killed, and his head was cut off and sent to the Ottomans as a trophy. Just like that, the reign of terror ended. But his legend didn't. Fast forward a few centuries. In 1897, Bram Stoker wrote his Gothic masterpiece, Dracula. He never visited Transylvania, but he found inspiration in books about Vlad III. He borrowed the name, the eerie castle setting, and combined it with old vampire legends. And the rest is horror history. Dracula, the blood-drinking, cape-wearing vampire, is fiction. But Vlad was terrifyingly real. No fangs, no bats, no immortality. Just a man with a chilling understanding of power and pain. Modern historians are still divided. Some say he was a necessary evil, a product of violent times who did what he had to do. Others see him as a pure tyrant, a man who reveled in cruelty and bloodshed. The truth, as always, lies somewhere in the middle. Tourists today flock to Bran Castle, often called Dracula's castle, even though Vlad likely never lived there. Souvenirs, vampire tours, creepy legends, all built on the bones of a man who would have probably laughed at the idea of glittery vampires. But behind the myth, behind the pop culture, lies a real man, a ruler who left a legacy soaked in fear, power, and unshakable national pride. Now here's a chilling thought. If you lived in Vlad's time, would you have feared him or followed him? Let us know in the comments. Was Vlad the Impaler a necessary evil, a national protector, or simply a monster in human form? And if you're fascinated by real-life horror stories from history, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow dark history lovers, and subscribe to HistoryNibbles for more tales that bite deep. Thanks for watching, and beware the forests of Wallachia. You never know whose ghost still lingers.